What if you discovered that some of the most glamorous and perfect faces of Hollywood's golden age lived their entire lives with a truth they were never allowed to reveal? On screen, they shone in soft light, with radiant smiles and cleverly staged romances designed to sell audiences a perfect dream. But behind those glamorous premieres and studio-arranged love affairs were men forced to hide the deepest parts of themselves just to survive and continue to be loved. The pressure was suffocating, the secrets heavy as shackles, and one wrong step could destroy everything they had worked so hard to build. This is the story of 30 actors from Hollywood's golden age who concealed their homosexuality within an industry that wouldn't allow them to be themselves. Rock Hudson. In the public eye, Rock Hudson was the perfect leading man of Hollywood's golden age. Tall, handsome, charming, and always appearing in romantic roles that captivated millions of viewers. He was the dream that studios wanted to sell to the world. But behind that dazzling glamour lay a truth that Rock Hudson was never allowed to reveal. His entire image was meticulously constructed by studios based on the ideal, attractive, and perfect image of a man. Therefore, his real relationships were completely concealed, replaced instead by meticulously staged fake dates and tightly controlled stories of his private life. Rock Hudson's real life was locked behind a door of silence, exposing how far Hollywood was willing to go to protect a perfect lie, even at the cost of a star's true self. Cary Grant possessed a radiant smile, a sophisticated voice, and an undeniable screen presence that propelled him to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars of its golden age. To the public, he was the epitome of the perfect, elegant, and flawless leading man. But behind the camera, his private life told a completely different story. Hollywood pushed him into carefully arranged marriages while secretly concealing his long-term, deep relationship with Randolph Scott. They lived together under one roof, shared daily life, and shared a bond so strong it was undeniable, despite countless rumors attempting to uncover the truth. Faced with ever-growing whispers, studios worked tirelessly to silence all suspicion, protecting his perfect leading man image at all costs. This silence wasn't due to a lack of emotion, but rather the necessary price for his continued existence and brilliance in a Hollywood that forbade the truth from being revealed. Randolph Scott became the quintessential image of the quiet, strong, and composed Western hero on screen, embodying the ideal Hollywood man. In public, he always appeared as a rugged, strong, and masculine figure, perfectly embodying the archetype Hollywood celebrated. But behind the camera, he lived a life the film industry tried to conceal at all costs. His long-standing and intimate relationship with Cary Grant became one of Hollywood's most whispered secrets. They lived together, went on vacations together, and shared a life closer and more genuine than any staged romance. While his public image was built as the epitome of a real man deep down, Randolph Scott lived in a world shaped by careful concealment and a constant fear that the truth might be revealed at any moment. Montgomery Clift was known for his gentle voice, deep eyes, and the rare emotional power he brought to each character on screen. He touched the hearts of audiences with the fragility and authenticity of his acting, but his greatest struggle was in real life, where he had to live with a truth he was never allowed to utter. Hollywood loved his talent, admired his emotional depth, but also feared that his honesty might shatter the image they had built. Friends silently protected him, directors discreetly covered for him, and Montgomery Clift himself continued to walk under the spotlight with a burden that grew heavier with each passing year. The hidden relationships, the prolonged silence, and the unshared pain exposed a bitter truth in Hollywood at that time. How dangerous honesty could be for a man whose entire career was built on a carefully constructed mask. James Dean became an immortal symbol of rebellion, youth, and unbridled passion. On screen and in the public eye, all that was seen was his cool jacket, speeding cars, and pensive, defiant gaze. But behind that facade lay silent battles that were largely unknown. Rumors about his love life followed him everywhere, like an unshakable shadow. Fearing the shattering of his image, studios worked tirelessly to bury anything that didn't fit the rebellious archetype they wanted to maintain. James Dean explored love in ways Hollywood refused to accept, forcing him to build a private world of secrets, nameless emotions, and unfinished stories. His short life thus remains one of the most mysterious and closely guarded chapters of Hollywood's golden age. Anthony Perkins possesses a gentle, delicate charm, enough to make audiences fall in love with him, especially after his iconic roles that have etched his name into film history. But behind that shy smile lies a man trapped between his true feelings and the strict, cold rules of the Hollywood studio system. He is forced to appear in carefully orchestrated public relationships, while his real partners are forced to remain hidden in the shadows. Every interview, every public appearance, and every rumor is tightly controlled to ensure his image remains clean and conforms to the mold that Hollywood allows. Anthony Perkins' private world gradually becomes a labyrinth of discreet encounters and secret affairs, revealing the truth that the golden age demands not only talent, but also a profound and enduring silence throughout one's life. Tab Hunter possessed the typical handsome, innocent look of a young man, which quickly made him one of the most sought-after teen idols of Hollywood's golden age. While fans cheered and adored his name, Tab Hunter quietly lived with a truth that the studios stubbornly refused to accept. Executives tightly controlled every detail of his public image, arranging his on-screen dates and concealing his true relationship with a fellow actress. Whenever tabloid journalists tried to uncover the truth, the studios would quickly intervene, erasing all traces before they could spread. Tab Hunter's life thus became a fragile balance between dazzling fame and constant fear, exposing just how dangerous honesty could be for a star who didn't conform to Hollywood's harsh rules. Farley Granger brought a subtle and refined confidence to the screen, especially in dramatic roles that helped him make his mark during Hollywood's golden age. In front of the camera, he exuded calmness and charm, but behind the scenes, his private life told a much quieter, more secretive and complex story. With close friends, he could be open and true to his emotions, but in public, he was forced to remain absolutely silent because Hollywood at that time demanded discretion as a matter of survival. The studio system shaped and controlled his image, always fearing that the truth about his private relationships could ruin the future they were building. Farley Granger lived between two parallel worlds, advancing his career cautiously, always aware that a single careless mistake could expose everything he had carefully concealed. Sal Mineo rose to stardom thanks to his emotional depth and youthful enthusiasm, bringing a rare energy to the screen. But behind that success lay a silent struggle with a secret life that Hollywood stubbornly refused to acknowledge. As his fame grew, rumors began to relentlessly pursue him, and these whispers gradually closed many important doors in his career. From relationships he had to keep secret to roles lost due to suspicion and prejudice, His life shows just how harsh the industry can be for those who don't fit the mold it sets. Even so, he tried to rebuild his career, choosing projects he truly loved and believed in. However, the pressure of constantly hiding his true self made each step heavier. This is Sal Minio's story. Minio is therefore still remembered as one of the most heartbreaking examples of forced silence during Hollywood's golden age. Raymond Burr is remembered by audiences for his powerful, authoritative, and weighty roles, but his real-life experiences were entirely different from the stories the studios deliberately fabricated. In public, he spoke of imaginary wives and carefully woven personal tragedies, all part of a script orchestrated by studio bosses to conceal the truth. Behind closed doors, Raymond Burr lived quietly with his partner, building a discreet life isolated from the gaze of fans and the press. Every interview, every appearance had to conform to a pre-prepared narrative, leaving no room for honesty. This double life exposed just how far Hollywood was willing to go to conceal an actor's true identity behind sophisticated and enduring lies. George Nader once had a promising career, possessing a handsome appearance and a growing fan base. But his life took a completely different turn when the secrets Hollywood tried to conceal became too difficult to control. Within his closest circles, he lived openly and honestly, not hiding his true self. However, in the public eye, Hollywood constantly pressured him to keep his identity secret whenever rumors began to surface. When private photos threatened to reveal Rock Hudson's identity, George Nader stepped up to take responsibility, quietly withdrawing from the spotlight to protect his close friend's career. This silent sacrifice led to a premature end to his artistic career. George Nader's story thus became one of the lesser-known glimpses of the golden age of cinema, showing that some actors paid a very high price simply for being true to themselves and protecting those they loved. Van Johnson was one of the most charming and beloved faces of Hollywood's golden age, renowned for his radiant smile and friendly, warm on-screen presence. To audiences, he always exuded an air of approachability and carefree innocence, as if nothing could dim his aura. But behind that bright image lay a life of immense pressure, with his studio constantly fearing that even a single rumor about his private life could cause a crisis. When the gossip became too much to control, Van Johnson was forced into a hasty marriage to quell public opinion. From then on, his public life became a carefully staged performance, while his real relationships had to stay away from the cameras. Every step Van Johnson took in Hollywood was driven by the fear of exposure and the constant need to conceal his true self. Clifton Webb possessed a rare, sharp elegance, enough to make each of his performances unforgettable and distinct during Hollywood's golden age. On screen, he exuded sophistication and absolute control, but off-screen, his private life was shrouded in thick silence. Many in Hollywood knew the truth, but studios, fearing public reaction, built a polished, perfect image for him, meticulously controlled down to the smallest detail. In private, Clifton Webb lived more freely and comfortably with his closest confidants, where he didn't need to wear a mask. However, every interview, every public appearance was carefully staged to protect the version of himself that Hollywood wanted the audience to believe. His life reveals just how deeply secrecy shaped and dominated his career during its heyday. Paul Lynde's brilliant humor and bold expressions made him a beloved figure, always bringing refreshing laughter to the screen. But behind those laughs lay a heavy reality that few saw. Hollywood appreciated his talent, but at the same time refused to let him move beyond the confines of comedic supporting roles because of the truth he was forced to conceal. Paul Lynde's private world was therefore always closed off, shaped by the constant fear of exposure and the tight control of the studio system. Even while bringing joy to millions, he lived under the pressure of a double life, where every smile on stage was accompanied by silent tension as he tried to protect his career in a harsh and unforgiving era. Richard Deacon often appears on screen playing stern, calm, and disciplined characters, leaving a strong impression even when not in the center of attention. However, in real life, his life demands even greater control and caution. Richard Deacon actively keeps his private life secret because he understands how harsh Hollywood can be to anyone who doesn't fully conform to its unspoken rules. Film studios value him as a reliable supporting actor, always performing his roles impeccably, while quietly keeping the press and public curiosity away from his private world. He lives quietly, away from the spotlight, and keeps a truth to himself that he knows can only safely share with a very small group of truly trustworthy people. Cesar Romero's smooth charm and confident style made him a prominent figure in a series of classic films during Hollywood's golden age. On screen, he always exuded a free-spirited and dashing aura, but behind the scenes, he dedicated almost his entire career to protecting a private life that Hollywood forced him to keep secret. Film studios orchestrated glamorous stories and meticulously planned public dates to maintain his perfect image, while his real relationships were kept absolutely confidential. Every public appearance was managed with extreme caution, allowing no deviation from the predetermined script. Despite a long and successful career, Cesar just how harsh and unforgiving Hollywood's golden age could be to the true person behind the glamour. Troy Donahue quickly became a teen idol during the Golden Age, his gentle, romantic looks and deep, warm voice captivating young audiences. On magazine covers, he appeared as the embodiment of romance and carefree innocence, but behind that glamour lay a truth he was never allowed to reveal. Hollywood thrust him into a series of prearranged public relationships and tightly controlled interviews to maintain a consistent, safe, and easily marketable image. Troy Donahue's real relationships were therefore kept secret, protected by fear of public backlash. He lived a meticulously managed life, where every rumor had to be quickly suppressed, exposing the harsh control and determination of young stars by studios. Dirk Bogarde was deeply respected for his subtle, expressive acting and rare emotional depth, yet his private life was shrouded in silence for decades. He maintained a quiet relationship for almost his entire life, a love that Hollywood never dared acknowledge because it didn't fit the image they wanted to build for him. Faced with a difficult choice, Dirk Bogarde chose silence over risk, both to protect his career and to keep his loved ones safe. This long-hidden truth vividly reflects how many actors in their prime had to live, caught between the incessant praise of the public and absolute caution in their own private world. Charles Laughton was one of the greatest actors of Hollywood's golden age, renowned for his powerful voice, authoritative demeanor, and haunting performances. Yet the public never knew the truth behind his marriage to Elsa Lanchester, a meticulously orchestrated arrangement designed to conceal his true identity. Hollywood insisted on maintaining Charles Laughton's upright and conventional image, carefully shaping every interview and public appearance to perfectly fit the prearranged narrative. Behind closed doors, he lived a different life, one filled with silent relationships, constant caution, and an unceasing need for self-protection. His story illustrates just how deeply the film industry relied on concealing the true identities of its most exceptional talents, viewing silence as the necessary price to maintain the glamour and power of its golden age. Laurence Olivier is one of the most respected and admired actors of his time, distinguished by his exceptional stage talent and emotionally rich, profound film performances. On the surface, he represents the pinnacle of acting, but even such a great name had to live under the shadow of persistent rumors about his private life. Hollywood pushed him into carefully managed relationships and meticulously calculated public appearances, all to protect the image they needed to maintain. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, rumors about his personal relationships silently followed him for years. Throughout his career, Laurence Olivier had to live in a silent tension between his illustrious public fame and his hidden private truth. This experience shows that even the greatest stars of Hollywood's golden age were not allowed to live openly and fully as themselves. Noel Coward was one of the most brilliant creative minds of the Golden Age, renowned for his sharp wit, elegant scripts, and captivating, smooth acting. Despite possessing all the charm and fame many could only dream of, he lived with a truth he could never openly acknowledge. He surrounded himself with trusted friends, quietly building a private world where he could be himself, without judgment and without fear. Meanwhile, Hollywood maintained a distinct, carefully crafted, and controlled public image for him. The industry loved his talent, but also feared the backlash if his personal life were exposed. Noel Coward's career thus became a delicate balance between shining brightly on stage and remaining hidden behind a veil of silence that lasted a lifetime. Kaye lit up the screen with his boundless energy, charming humor, and unique playfulness, making him one of the most beloved artists of the Golden Age. In public, he was always an icon of joy and optimism, but behind those vibrant performances lay the constant pressure of protecting a private life that never fit the image Hollywood had cultivated. For years, rumors of a long-standing and intimate relationship between him and Laurence Olivier lingered, never confirmed. Whenever whispers surfaced, studios would quickly intervene, ensuring the story was buried before it could spread. Kaye's real world thus remained behind closed doors, shaped by caution and meticulous planning, so that Hollywood could keep him safe, sought after, and free from scandal. Everett Horton was beloved by audiences for his gentle voice, subtle comedic expressions, and unforgettable, charming supporting roles. On screen, he exuded a sense of closeness and security, but behind the camera lay a truth he carefully kept secret throughout his life. His personal life was implicitly understood by many in Hollywood, yet never publicly discussed, as the film industry at the time relied on maintaining a safe and tightly controlled image. Everett Horton chose to live in a peaceful home with trusted friends, away from the prying eyes of the public and the press. Film studios also proactively avoided associating his name with any romantic relationships, understanding that the truth would not fit the image they wanted audiences to believe. His life clearly reflects how many actors of the Golden Age survived and protected their careers through discreet privacy and utmost caution. Franklin Pangborn often appeared in charming, flamboyant, and humorous roles, offering audiences a light-hearted and endearing feel in countless films of the film's golden age. But behind that cheerful charm lay a private life he could never publicly acknowledge. Hollywood valued his talent, but refused to let him be seen as anything other than the familiar archetype of a humorous, supporting character. Reporters rarely delved into his private life, as studios went to great lengths to ensure that the truth about him was never revealed. Franklin Pangborn lived quietly, building a safe world for himself, isolated from fans and photographers. His life illustrates the harsh limitations the Golden Age placed on actors who didn't meet the industry's demanding expectations. Leonard Bernstein rose to become a giant in the music world, widely admired for his burning passion, creative audacity, and rare charisma. Despite his global respect and admiration, he lived a complex double life, heavily influenced by Hollywood and the relentless pressure of public opinion. His marriage became a necessary shield, protecting him from persistent rumors. However, his true relationships with other men remained hidden for decades, existing only in silence and caution. Leonard Bernstein constantly had to balance the delicate balance of public fame and his private life, striving to protect those he loved while maintaining a solid career. His story joins a long list of Golden Era figures who were forced to conceal the truth to survive in an industry that was both glamorous and judgmental. Ramon Novarro was one of the first handsome actors of classic cinema, admired for his expressive eyes and charming, captivating appearance. On screen, he embodied the romance and perfection that Hollywood wanted audiences to believe. But behind that glamour lay a heartbreaking reality shaped by the strict control of the studios. Hollywood fabricated stories about his love life that completely deviated from the truth, deliberately adding false rumors to mislead fans and protect his established image. Ramon Novarro's real relationships were forced into absolute secrecy, and the pressure to remain silent grew heavier over the years. He lived in constant fear that even a small mistake would destroy everything he had built. His life thus became one of the most heartbreaking examples of being forced to live in secrecy during Hollywood's golden age. William Haynes was one of Hollywood's biggest stars in its early days, captivating audiences with his confidence, charm, and natural sense of humor. Unlike most actors of that golden age, he refused to live in lies. When the studio pressured him to leave his partner to save his career, William Haynes made a rare and bold choice. He chose love over fame. That decision caused Hollywood to quickly slam the door in his face, ending a career on the verge of legendary heights. Yet beyond the spotlight, he built a meaningful new life for himself, becoming a successful interior designer and living openly and peacefully in his own home, even as the film industry continued to conceal the truths of many others from the world. Alan Ladd possessed the quintessential tough guy persona, an image that quickly propelled him to Hollywood stardom. In public, he embodied strength and coolness, but behind that facade, his personal life was far more fragile and complex. From the early years of his career, rumors about his private life relentlessly followed him, forcing studios to hastily bury anything incompatible with the heroic roles he was assigned. Public relationships were carefully orchestrated as part of his promotional campaigns, while his real-life connections remained completely hidden behind a tightly controlled, glamorous facade. Alan Ladd lived under constant scrutiny, every step meticulously considered. The pressure to protect a truth that his golden age resolutely refused to accept subtly shaped his entire career and life. Errol Flynn became an icon of adventure with his wild charm, quick wit, and fearless, daring roles. In the eyes of the audience, he was the epitome of the most charming man of the Golden Age, a living legend amidst tumultuous and glamorous love affairs. But that image reflected only a small part of the truth. Behind the scenes, Errol Flynn's private life was far more complex, with relationships that didn't fit the version Hollywood wanted to sell to the public. Fearing that rumors could undermine his appeal, studios proactively built a grander image than reality, loud and dramatic enough to distract public opinion. His real life thus remained carefully concealed, demonstrating just how tightly the Golden Age controlled the truth behind its boldest and most dazzling stars. John Gielgud is considered one of the greatest stage and film actors of all time, admired for his distinctive voice, rare elegance, and unmistakable charisma. Yet even with his talent and status, he lived in a world where honesty could come at a very high price. When he was caught in a private moment inadvertently revealing his true self, Hollywood quietly intervened, skillfully diverting public attention to protect his image and career. Even so, the fear of exposure never left John Gielgud's life, haunting him for many years in silence. His life became a powerful testament to how the Golden Age forced even the most brilliant artists to conceal themselves in order to survive. Now you've witnessed the hidden world that studios once tried to bury, and the silent battles these actors endured while the world admired their glamorous image, never knowing the truth behind it all. Their stories aren't just about fame or talent, but also about survival, inner strength, and the painful price of living in an era where being yourself could end an entire career. How many more stories like these are waiting to be revealed? If you want to continue exploring shocking analyses of the secrets Hollywood once tried to hide, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.